All right. Okay. So we've got another interview for you guys. Another case study here of a student from the mentorship program, and I'm very glad today that Tamara was able to take some time out of her busy day, to be with us and chat. So thank you for being here, Tamara. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Happy to be here.
So let's jump right into it. Let's talk about where you started. Like where were you before you joined the mentorship program? What were you doing?
Yeah, of course, no problem. So before the mentorship program, I was working in advertising and digital media. Essentially, I sold, you know, big box makeup online, like some of the brands you see in store and in Sephora and Ulta. So recruiting was something that I had never really thought about, but definitely had an interest in.
That's awesome. Yeah, that reflects to my background in advertising sales, where I basically was kind of a total corporate cubicle guy, doing about 100 cold calls a day. But it was probably a little bit different than what you were doing previously. But nonetheless, so once you got into the program, or what led you to recruiting? What was the attraction to getting into the business, to wanting to go through the training, basically?
Yeah, well, I had actually run across your videos on YouTube. And in fact, while I always was kind of curious about, what a recruiter or a headhunter did day to day and how one became one, I never really knew it was attainable. But then I came across one of your videos somehow and I ended up kind of like binging them. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I get what he does. Like I watched like a day in your life and I watched a few of your other videos talking about like what you did and how you did it and how you got clients. And it made me feel like, oh, okay, wow, like this guy who kind of has a similar background, like I have, if he can do it and he's showing folks how to do it on YouTube and giving away all this like amazing, value just off his channel, I wonder what like the recruiter group is like as well. Um,
Mm.
so I just kind of like followed you down the rabbit hole essentially.
Makes perfect sense. I mean, you don't know how many people tell me, there's no flex, right? But people tell me they binge watch all the videos, and I'm honored, right? But I try to put nuggets and really good, genuine, quality content in every video that I do. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that led you into the training, and we're here talking about what got you into it. We're going to talk in a second about where you are now, but which is exactly kind of my next question. Once you got into the program, which you got into in January of this year, right? So the beginning of the year, so about 9 months ago. And when you got in, let's say from inception to now, how many contracts, how many clients would you say that you've grabbed over that period of time?
Well, individual clients, I'd say about 15. However, maybe three or four of those 15 have been recurring clients and recurring contracts. So folks who I've worked with, I don't know, a few months ago are now coming back to me today with requests for 5 forklift drivers or 10 laborers or 2 social media coordinators.
Hmm.
So it's definitely kind of evolved over the last 9 months and grew from, having like 1 or 2 contracts and getting my very first placement all the way to now where my calendar is booked. I'm placing people every week essentially.
Love
So
it.
it's definitely it grew and evolved.
Love it. Love it. Amazing. That's awesome. I mean, 15 contracts, three of those being recurring over the course of 9 months is really good work. Like that's awesome. I mean, you're grabbing at least a client a month, so that's perfect. A little bit over that. And then three of those being recurring, that's that's where I mean, a lot of people don't realize that's where the real money is, right? And I have a lot of recurring clients in the logistics space, like you were talking about, and it's drivers, forklift people. We need pickers, packers, whatever, and it's just I can count on them, for $100,000 in revenue every single year. Having a couple of those around, which is really awesome. So let's talk numbers, right? Because the burning question, everyone always wants to know, okay, all right, Tamara, you joined the program and you got in January. How did everything go? I mean, like you started off, obviously, the program is 2 months long and we go through our Zooms, we do all our training and everything. And you start getting clients, but let's talk about revenue. Like, what did that look like from the start to kind of the middle to where you are now?
Yeah, of course. Well, within the first month, I got my first contract. It was actually for I think about 3 CDLA drivers, so 3 truck drivers. And that was within the first month. Within the first 6 weeks, I was able to place one of those truck drivers. And then within the first 8 weeks, I was able to place the other two while getting a few other contracts for labor positions like warehouse folks from the same company. So within the first month, I had a pipeline. And then within the first 6 weeks, I was getting paid, I don't know, anywhere between $4,000 and $6,000 a driver, depending on the role. So it didn't take long. Fast forward to where I'm at now. Last month in August, I cleared over $40,000 in net revenue for the month, which is very exciting. And I'm on track to do that and a bit more for September and October as well. So everything definitely kind of evolved and did the snowball effect, if that makes sense. I definitely noticed that the fruits of my labor from the month previous definitely impacted what revenue I generated the next month.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's been really good and really exciting. And also too, I'll say that while I'm, there are times when I really sprint, I have a husband, I have in-laws, I have other projects that I'm involved in. So I'm not always even doing this 60, 70 hours a week. Even just, sprinting and then doing things part-time here and there, I've still been able to achieve this. So no excuses.
Yeah. Hashtag no excuses. I love it because that's similar to when I interviewed Lydia. She has, I think, at least two kids off to college. One's younger, I think, and the whole family life and baseball games and, just all these things going on. And she's killing it, right? She's got all these contracts and she brought on her first virtual assistant to scale. And you're doing the exact same. You're literally bringing in, I mean, last month, that would be the average American's salary in 1 month. I like to always put things in perspective for people, right? So that's a year's salary for somebody in 1 month. So that's incredible. So definitely props to you. And we always like to say golf clap on our Zooms. So, right, golf clap. But yeah, that's amazing, and just a testament to what you can accomplish. So that's really, really, really cool to hear. And really cool to hear, basically, I mean, when you put it on the grand scale, what you're pacing for the annual. I mean, that's amazing. It's going to look real good. So, and you kind of covered one of my next questions was, how long did that take to get there, which was about 9 months, right? And clearly, like you mentioned before, it took a little bit to ramp up, took a little bit to kind of get the vibe. And then once you had that rhythm, you're making $40K a month, and you're on pace, you said, to do that again in September. And that's awesome. So last question, maybe second to last. Did you, originally in anything you ever have done before at all, was there any component of recruiting whatsoever? I know you mentioned how how you were doing things before with work, but was any component of that recruitment whatsoever? Was this from scratch?
This was from scratch. While I may have hired someone to join a team when I was working in corporate PR before, I didn't even know how third party recruiters made their money. Like, I really had no idea. Like, so this is really from scratch,
Mhm.
and me learning the industry with your help and with your guidance, Ben. Additionally, yeah, but additionally, the community of other mentees that you've built has been instrumental, and helping me grow my business and helping me learn the industry. Getting not yelled at, but getting, hey, Tam, there's other ways to do that. Don't do that, from other folks in the community as well as yourself, has been
Mhm.
helpful, and really is what allowed me to grow, and what allows other folks in the mentor community to grow as well. So
Totally agree. Totally agree. And that really covered my last question too. So that was pretty much, what I guess there is a question in there too. What would lead somebody to want to really, if they're on the fence, like what would lead somebody to want to get into the recruiter mentorship program? We're doing this interview for a purpose. We want to talk about Tamara's success, and we want to talk about the program, right? And I want to really kind of make it real for people and help someone understand why it would be beneficial for them to join the recruiter mentorship program in a paragraph, a few sentences.
yeah, well, for I could just speak personally. For me, I realized the amount of time that I spent binging Ben's videos, I could be actually acting on what he's talking about and what he's doing, and growing my business and growing towards success. So I think if your interest is piqued and you want the type of freedom and ownership over your own destiny and what you do every day in regards to work, and if you want to do things that really help people too. I mean, I've had so many candidates come up to me and say, hey, Tamara, I really love it here. This job treats me so much better. It's great. So if you really like all of those things and you're already watching this video, uh,
Book
you
a
might want to
call.
consider it. You might want to jump in.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love how you put that, because it's so true. And I think, you touched on something that we'll end off on. I think people value themselves at about 50%, and I think I would dare to say that from January to now, you've probably fulfilled, double your potential of what you didn't even know that you probably could be doing. And I think it's like that for all humans. I just think that we're all, overthinking ourselves or underestimating ourselves to the point where we don't really know our true potential until we hit a 40K month, and then it's off to the races. So yeah, that's all I have for you, Tamara. So I really appreciate the time that you've taken out to do this. And I'll tell you what, we're gonna do another interview. I tell this to everybody. When you hit seven figures, right? We'll do another interview, and we'll talk about how that process went. How about that?
That sounds perfect. Looking forward to it.
Good to go. Awesome. All right. I appreciate you, and we'll definitely be talking with you soon. Okay.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Take care.